people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. Oscar De La Hoya isn't holding back. He said, wait, weren't belts not supposed to matter? Is this a pivot, a power play, or reality setting in? Setting in for Dana White, who recently made the decision to sign Jai Opetaia, promote him, while simultaneously allowing him to fight for sanctioning body belts after he said he wasn't going to work with them. It's a 180. It definitely is. And it's all anybody's talking about right now, because what does this mean for the future of Zuffa? I said it in my previous video, and I will say it here again. I think that Zuffa would have been limiting themselves, just focusing on their own Zuffa belt, Zuffa rankings, and Zuffa fighters. Keeping their options open allows them to grow, allows them the chance to strengthen their stable in a way that just signing B, C, and D tier fighters would not. If you can sign a Jai Opetaia, you could theoretically sign a Gary Antoine Russell, a Sebastian Fundora, a Carlos Adames, an Erislandy Lara. What champions are lying around that the boxing fans are familiar with? At its base, it is an ideological problem, but for Dana White, it's a good problem to have. Doesn't Oscar De La Hoya have enough of his own problems that he doesn't need to be worrying about Dana's? He calls this a contradiction, but how many times have we seen Oscar De La Hoya contradict himself? I remember in 2016 amid rumors of an impending Mayweather versus McGregor fight, Oscar De La Hoya made the suggestion that his man Canelo should fight Conor McGregor. Was okay with crossovers then. Just so that the following year, when the Mayweather versus McGregor fight is made, oh, now it's bad. Now crossovers are bad. And this is a circus. Contradiction! Oscar is so mad that Dana White is crossing over into his territory. What is his industry? But didn't he try to cross over into Dana's a couple of years ago? Remember when he tried to get into MMA? Contradiction! Near as I can tell, Dana White's foray into boxing is already more successful than Oscar's foray into MMA, because Dana at least found a major broadcaster for his brand of boxing, whereas Oscar never did that with his brand of MMA. Didn't last long anyway. Just one card. The real conversation piece here is that in doing business with fighters that are holding sanctioning body titles, you may end up indirectly undermining your own Zuffa title, your own Zuffa belt. The other sanctioning body titles, the ones that the fans are already familiar with, they're going to distract people from yours. Now, I maintain that in keeping their options open with what fighters they're willing to promote, that's still a good move. It allows them to grow and beef up their stable, but there's no such thing as a free lunch. It does come at the expense of the Zuffa belt's legitimacy. It's got no lineage, no history, and boxing's history is a big part of what makes it attractive. The long line of fighters that became champions with the WBC, the WBA, the WBO, and the IBF, all of that history. And its intrinsic value to the fighters, to the fans, and what all of that means. You're attempting to establish that now with your own Zuffa belt. That's going to be hard to do if you're keeping the others around. So if there is something to be addressed in all of this, it is that. No, it is that same old conversation from always. Do belts in the sport of boxing actually matter?
Listen, belts matter. We grew up watching fighters when we were kids. Literally, you and I were kids watching fights, and we were seeing guys with WBC belts, WBO belts, WBA belts. They mattered, and that creates a generational want for a fighter. It'll take a long time for us to not care about belts anymore. And I wasn't sitting there watching the Zuffa belt. I was watching the WBC, the green belt, the red belt, the brown, the black belt. You know, those things matter. So belts matter. They also give, like you said earlier, it gives fighters that bargaining chip now to make some more money, change their lives, create generational wealth. Belts matter. I know we gripe about the governing bodies, but a lot of the things that are actually in the Reform Act are actually helping. They're helping the fighter. They're making more sense, using some common sense to make the sport move more smoothly. But at the end of the day, man, belts still matter.
As much as we gripe about the sanctioning bodies and their governance or the lack thereof, the belts themselves, they do matter. They set the stage for a lot of what happens in the sport and why that matters. Why was it important that Usyk fight Tyson Fury?
Undisputed.
How do we know that Naoya Inoue is cut from the same cloth as a Crawford, as an Usyk, as a Canelo?
Undisputed.
Still an earmark that separates the okay fighters from the good fighters and the good fighters from the great fighters. I mean, what if I told you that you've got a fighter at a weight that stands little to no chance of winning a belt from anyone?
If I told you this guy's gonna go his whole career without ever getting to call himself a champion, you might think, well, that fighter, he must not be very good.
I'll put the shoe on the other foot. If I tell you there's a fighter out there who he'd beat anybody with a belt, everybody with a belt, at his own weight, and the next one, what would you think about that fighter?
Pretty sure you'd think that fighter's a good fighter, maybe even a great fighter. That's what you might think.
My issue with the sanctioning bodies is primarily centered around how they're governed.
But the belts themselves, they still matter. You can call them trinkets and you can call them trophies, but intrinsically, they give boxing a pecking order and set the stage for a lot of what happens.
Without them, it's just a bunch of random guys fighting random guys with no meaning and no purpose, no structure. What the belts and the alphabet organizations are intended to do is make order out of the chaos and establish a pecking order, a hierarchy. So what fighters can collect all 4 belts at their prescribed weight are set apart from the rest. More so if they can hang on to them, if they can defend them.
You have your criticisms of the sanctioning bodies, and I have mine. But the belts themselves, they do still matter.
What Dana White is trying to do with his Zuffa boxing is get his Zuffa belt to matter, and I don't know if he'll succeed in that. He can put on some good fights and sign some really good fighters, and he can perhaps get people to watch. I think he can, but getting the Zuffa belt to matter as much as the Ring Magazine belt or the alphabets,
that's gonna be tough.
Just in keeping with the theme of alphabet titles, I'm ready to put a beating on somebody. Mario Barrios versus Ryan Garcia officially announced for February 21st. Today, the upcoming welterweight title defense between Mario Barrios versus Ryan Garcia was officially announced for February 21st. During the announcement, the sides held a kickoff press conference with both fighters sharing some thoughts on the upcoming matchup.
I got my own thoughts about the matchup.
I'm really honored to be part of this huge fight. This is how it's supposed to be, Garcia said. WBC, I can't thank y'all enough. The WBC, I love the WBC. Like, you have no idea how much I love the WBC. I am definitely super prepared for this fight. You guys, I've been really focused. You can do a lot of talking. At the end of the day, the fight is February 21st. I'm on my shit. I'm ready to put a beating on somebody. I'm hungry. My prediction, there's going to be a lot of cuts in this fight, and it's going to be a great fight. The one thing that we do know about Mario is he's a very durable fighter. Barrios has got 3 guys that used to train me, not just Joe Goosen, this man called the Avengers. I call them traitors. Yeah, this is turning into a circus, Barrios said. This fight is set February 21st. Y'all know what I bring every time I step in there. They said that he's focused, that we're going to get a Ryan Garcia that's 100%, and that makes me happy to hear. So when I whoop his ass in February, there won't be any excuses. The boxing fans are going to get a great fight, and this ain't a fight that you want to miss.
My thoughts? This ain't a fight that should cost you anything extra. It shouldn't cost you anything extra to see Ryan Garcia, who's coming off a loss, and Mario Barrios, who's coming off of 2 back-to-back draws, one with a 46-year-old retiree.
For those not aware, this is not exactly a Golden Boy Promotions affair. It's actually Turkey LL Sheik that is financing this fight, and that's the only reason DAZN is carrying it at this time when Golden Boy Promotions is between broadcasters, and we don't know if DAZN will give them a new deal. But not only do I think that this shouldn't be a pay-per-view, I also don't think Ryan should get the chance to box for this title coming off a loss and a doping violation before that. Veteran boxing scribe Steve Kim echoed that sentiment when he said, "There's lots of talk on the state of boxing and the new Ali Act. Take whatever side you want. It really doesn't matter, and I really don't care. But please acknowledge that how the business was conducted by those in charge the past few decades led to this point. I saw it firsthand.
What's that got to do with Ryan?
I said, they want to pretend that everything's been all sunshine and rainbows up until this point, to which Steve responded, Jules, that system, business that rewards Ryan Garcia to get a title shot versus Mario Barrios after his most recent fight, yeah, that's what needs to be protected and preserved.
That was sarcasm. Because for all of the pearl clutching you've seen in reference to the amendments to the Ali Act or Dana White's entry into the boxing space, what is it that these people think they're protecting?
A system so broken that Ryan Garcia can come off a doping violation straight into a title shot with Rolly, lose, then straight into another title shot with Mario Barrios?
This is what needs protecting? This is what needs preserving?
From Big Bad Dana White. Dana White bothers these people, him coming into boxing, but all this shit doesn't. The only reason that Ryan Garcia is being afforded these opportunities that he clearly doesn't deserve isn't because of his ability to box, but because of his Instagram following. That's it, folks. That's all.
But doesn't this discussion about Ryan undermine your previous discussion about belts and how they still matter?
Not really. Ryan is only boxing for a belt because belts still matter. Ryan is the guy that used to say belts don't matter. But look at him now. He's fighting for a belt because belts still matter. Belts in and of themselves are not the problem. The problem is how these alphabet organizations are run.
Some more than others.
The World Boxing Council, that I think is the most openly corrupt of all four sanctioning bodies. Every chance Mauricio Suleiman gets, he jumps on the pulpit and gives some long-winded speech
about the betterment of boxing and how this is the people's sport, when nothing he's done is to the betterment of the people or boxing.
How are you making boxing better by affording Ryan an opportunity that he didn't fight for? He didn't fight in any WBC eliminators. He didn't earn this opportunity. There are other ranked contenders in your ranks that deserve this shot more than him, but you only gave it to him because he's more popular than they are, effectively watering down what it means to be a champion, because if he wins,
it's only because you gave him a shot that should have went to somebody else. Mario.
Well, he's only really a champion right now because you didn't order the fights that you needed to order. Would he still be a champion right now if he would have had to defend his title against Suleiman Sissoko?
This is the broken system that people have been defending.
They don't stand on their soapbox and clutch at their pearls over any of this. This is perfectly okay. But God forbid Dana White enter into the sport, because then there might actually be some regulation. There might be some structure.
Less of this bullshit.
What's this gonna run to boxing fans? $60? To see Mario coming off of 2 draws and Ryan who's coming off a loss in a fight that he shouldn't even be in because he didn't earn it.
In men's heavyweight news, Wilder versus Chisora on Sky Sports. The April 4th Deontay Wilder-Derek Chisora heavyweight fight is being targeted to be a Sky Sports pay-per-view event, with Vidal Riley set to feature on the undercard of the Cali Sauerland promoted event.
Cali Sauerland? I thought that Derek was with Queensbury.
Derek Chisora, out of his own mouth, said that after the Otto Wallin fight, his contract with Queensbury ended. And who knew that Sky Sports still had an interest in staying in the sport of boxing? After they let Boxer go, I thought they were done. And when I heard that the fight between Derek and Wilder would be going down in London in April at the O2, I automatically assumed it would be Queensbury promoting it, but apparently not. It's the Sauerlands.
Cali and Nisei Sauerland, the Sauerland brothers, who've got a lot of time in the sport of boxing. Up until recently, they were promoting under the Wasserman banner, also working with KSI on his Misfits Boxing.
Now they're doing this.
Wilder himself is in line to fight Alexander Usyk later this year. And if he fights you in April, this would be a tune-up fight.
Oh yeah, the winner might end up fighting Alexander Usyk. We never know.
If you come through this one, and although you said it's 50 and out, and we know what you're like, you change your mind like the weather, and it probably won't be 50 and out. It will be then you and Alexander Usyk in a crazy world of boxing, mate. At this stage of your career, could you imagine that?
Imagine anything in life. Life is just a beautiful thing. Things happen for a beautiful reason. Listen. If the fight with Deontay happens and the winner will fight Usyk, that'll be amazing. And right now I'm hearing Usyk is fighting, what's his name? What's the Mexican kid? What's his name? Ruiz in Vegas.
Andy Ruiz.
Yeah, Andy Ruiz. So that's what I'm hearing right now. So listen, when we do make things happen with Deontay Wilder, for him to win this fight, he has to knock me out, like proper lights out. So if he can't do that in round 10 or 12, I'm gonna eat him up. Let me explain something to you fellas. Deontay is gonna get laid out.
I have to admit that I felt a lot more confident about the fight happening when I thought it was Queensberry at the helm of the promotion. As it stands, it's the Sauerlands, though I suppose it also helps that it would be Sky Sports financing it, and Sky Sports has money. Strange to see them doing anything involved in boxing, though, when they just let Ben Shalom and Boxer go to another platform. They didn't fight to keep them, they didn't renew. If Ben were still there, with his stable of fighters as your in-house promoter, you could have just let him handle the promotion, and it would sell. In terms of tickets at the O2, I think it'll do well. In terms of pay-per-view in the UK, I'm not sure.
You'd have to ask a Brit how much or how little this fight is going to do at the box office, because I don't know. What I do know is, in the middle of the afternoon, this should not be billed as a pay-per-view. This is a fight that I like. I like Wilder versus Chisora, but it shouldn't cost an American audience anything extra. And because the main distributor is going to be Sky, not DAZN, where are we supposed to watch it? And what is it going to cost us?
What else came out in Derek's recent interview on Talk Sport is that Usyk is now looking at former Unified Champion Andy Ruiz for a fight in Las Vegas. Who is supposed to be paying for that? Andy Ruiz was last in action well over a year ago on the undercard of Crawford versus Madrimov, in my purview, losing a lopsided decision to Jarrell Miller, but the judges were generous and they scored it a draw.
He hasn't fought since then.
Andy Ruiz is a very strong puncher within close quarters, quick counters, but he's never been graceful, doesn't have the fastest feet. I believe that a fight between him and Usyk would look a lot like Usyk's fight with Murat Gassiev. Another hard puncher within close quarters is walking on quicksand. Usyk's gonna box circles around him. That's what I think if that fight happens, though I question if that fight is gonna happen, because who's the financier for it? Who would want to put up the money for Usyk versus Ruiz?
Yeah, they said it's supposed to go down in Vegas. Who's based out of Vegas?
Wilder has that fight with Derek Chisora. He doesn't make it to the fight with Usyk. And that would be one less dance partner for the Unified Ring Magazine and lineal champion. As far as this Ruiz fight,
Yeah, I don't even know if this happens. Who would want to put the money up for it? Who's interested?